Prediction markets, incentive engineering, and the rise of reputation as capital. When prediction markets begin pricing attention rather than just events, they transform culture into an economic arena where reputation becomes measurable, incentives reshape behavior, and social capital evolves into a tradable asset class. Section 1. Introduction. From forecasting events to pricing attention. Prediction markets were originally designed to forecast outcomes. Elections, interest rate decisions, gross domestic product prints, product launches. They aggregated dispersed information and compressed it into probabilities. In doing so, they created a mechanism for collective intelligence, markets as epistemic tools. But something structurally different happens when prediction markets stop forecasting discrete events and begin pricing attention itself. When the underlying asset shifts from will X happen to how much mindshare will X accumulate, the market no longer merely observes reality. It begins to interact with and shape the conditions that produce it. Attention becomes tradable, narrative becomes measurable, reputation becomes quantifiable. And once that happens, incentives reorganize behavior in real time. This is the inflection point. Prediction markets cease to be passive forecasting mechanisms and become active systems of incentive engineering. Section 2. The evolution of prediction markets. A. Event-based markets. Traditional prediction markets revolve around binary or bounded outcomes. Will candidate A win? Will inflation exceed 3%? Will a company launch by the fourth quarter? These markets operate on resolution. They close when reality arrives. Their function is epistemic, discover probabilities more efficiently than pundits or polling. Crucially, the event being predicted is largely external to the market itself. The market observes. It does not materially alter the event. B. Narrative-based markets. Attention-based markets are structurally different. They measure mind share, sentiment, engagement velocity, narrative dominance. These are not discrete endpoints. They are continuous signals. Instead of predicting a future binary event, the market tracks and prices ongoing cultural momentum. And here's the key distinction. Event markets compress information. Attention markets compress social energy. The object of trade is not an outcome but a dynamic signal within the culture itself. C. Structural difference. In event markets, reality resolves the market. In attention markets, the market can influence reality. Participants who hold positions have incentives to amplify narratives, create content, mobilize communities, or reshape perception. The boundary between observer and actor collapses. This is where reflexivity enters. Section 3. The attention economy as economic substrate. A. Attention as a scarce resource. Human attention is finite. Every platform, every brand, every individual competes within a bounded cognitive bandwidth. In digital environments, attention becomes measurable. Mentions, shares, engagement, sentiment polarity. What was once intangible becomes numerically representable. Scarcity plus measurability equals economic substrate. B. From engagement to financial instrument. When mindshare can be quantified and verified, it can be priced. When it can be priced, it can be traded. And when it can be traded, it becomes financialized. This is the transformation. Engagement becomes metric. Metric becomes market. Market becomes incentive structure. Culture becomes legible to capital, and capital begins to flow toward narrative momentum rather than traditional fundamentals alone. This content is brought to you by Bobby Giggs. Promote your brand here and reach a wide audience across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow the links in the description to get started. Section 4. Incentive engineering and Goodhart's law. Once attention becomes tradable, behavior adapts. This is where Goodhart's law emerges. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. If mindshare determines market payout, participants optimize for mindshare. If sentiment determines payout, behavior shifts towards sentiment manipulation. Metrics are no longer passive reflections of reality. They become objectives. A. Behavioral optimization. Actors will increase output, coordinate communities, refine messaging, escalate signaling intensity. Incentives reshape expression. The market becomes a behavioral feedback engine. B. Clean signal versus manipulated signal. In any system where attention is priced, attempts at gaming are inevitable. Botting, artificial amplification, outrage cycles, manufactured virality. This triggers a counterforce. Measurement systems must become more sophisticated. Detection improves. Signal filtering intensifies. Authenticity scoring evolves. A recursive loop forms. Actors adapt, metrics adapt, actors adapt again. This evolutionary pressure may produce better signal extraction or more sophisticated manipulation. Section 5, Reputation as Capital. When attention is continuously measured and behavior adapts to optimize it, something deeper emerges. Reputation becomes cumulative signal, not just social perception, but an economic output. A. From social asset to measurable asset. Reputation historically functioned as informal trust capital. In attention markets, it becomes trackable, consistency of engagement, sentiment trends, influence velocity, network spillover effects. This transforms reputation into a quantifiable performance history. B. Collateralization of reputation. Once measurable, reputation can theoretically be priced, compared, ranked, underwritten. It becomes a form of probabilistic trust. And trust in markets is capital. Influence markets, credibility markets, narrative dominance markets. Reputation migrates from social abstraction to economic primitive. Section 6, Structural Implications. Prediction markets applied to attention do not merely reflect culture. They structure it. They compress narrative into price, convert engagement into capital flows, incentivize adaptive behavior. This creates a system where cultural momentum leads to financial opportunity. Financial opportunity leads to behavioral adaptation. Behavioral adaptation leads to cultural transformation, a feedback loop between markets and meaning. Section 7, Conclusion. The marketization of culture. When prediction markets price attention, culture becomes a competitive signaling arena. Reputation evolves into capital. Narrative becomes tradable. Behavior becomes optimized around measurable visibility. This is not simply a new financial instrument. It is a reconfiguration of incentive architecture within the attention economy. The open question remains, will the financialization of reputation produce higher signal ecosystems or amplify volatility, performance pressure, and manipulation? Either way, one thing is clear. Once attention becomes a market, culture no longer sits outside of capital. It becomes one of its primary substrates.